putting our aprons on and situated. So let us know where you're watching from. Saw there's several of you already on. Love to know where you're at. There we go. Where you want it. Okay.
That's good.
There you go.
Good deal.
All right. Let's see. See if I can see the chat here. Hey, Jessica, you're in Boone. You're not too far from us today then. Cool. All right. Let's see. I don't know why my picture's showing so small. Hey, Tabby in West Virginia. All right. So hopefully you guys can see. So I want to introduce you to my mother-in-law. This is Debbie. Hi. And she is going to be hanging out with us and making tomato sauce together today. And I'm excited for her to hang out and make some sauce. Have you made tomato sauce before?
I have not.
Okay, so this is new for you.
I'm going to learn.
All right, cool. So we're all going to kind of learn together. Debbie brought her own massive box of tomatoes. So we're going to work from these. And we're going to go over first what supplies you need. And then we'll just jump right in and we're going to start making some sauce. All right. So let's see. The first thing you're going to need is obviously your tomatoes. And then you are going to need a couple of sheet pans if you want to grab those sheet pans. So whatever will fit in your oven will probably work. My oven can hold about 2, so we'll just use 2 of these. Perfect. And go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So let's see, I'll do that real quick. And while I'm doing that, will you show the jars and maybe show the difference between the regular and wide mouth?
Sure. And I normally use the regular jars, and I have this thing right here, the little funnel that I just use like that to put my stuff in there so it doesn't go out over the jars. But they also have the wide mouth, which is probably a lot more conducive to putting stuff in because you don't have it going over the sides like you would in these.
So if you're buying your jars, you can decide, which size you like best. Let's see if you can see the difference. So this is the wide mouth and this is the regular mouth. And I mean, either one will work. Most of my jars are used. So, and I know you have a lot of used jars too. That's one of the great things is a lot of times people will give you jars and you don't have to pay for them. So I've kind of got a mix here today. Your canning funnel, if you need a link to this, let me know. You can get these for about $5. They're pretty inexpensive. You're also going to need lids and rings. So my preferred kind of canning lid are the lids from 4 Jars USA. They're sponsoring our class today. They've sent us our lids for our sauce. And you can get wide mouth or regular lids from them. They come in a pack of 100. And if you will use a coupon, the coupon code is GraceWalk10. You get 10% off on anything from 4 Jars. We even have a canning mat that's like supposed to help your back that we're standing on that's from 4 Jars. They have lots of cool stuff. And then I've also got a pack of Golden Harvest lids just because I'm out of the regular mouth lids from 4 Jars. So 4 Jars is my favorite, but if you need something and you can't find them, the Golden Harvest works. They sell those at Walmart.
And you can also get those at Dollar General.
Do they have them at Dollar General now? Cool. And you got an egg?
Fairy egg.
Oh, we got another fairy egg. Josh just came in from the chicken. It's so
Little bitty.
Oh,
We have some of those at our house.
cool. Okay, you're also gonna need some olive oil. Optional, but I suggest it is some balsamic vinegar. I actually got this when we went to the Outer Banks
Okay.
at one of those little stores down there. And then you're gonna need salt, pepper, and garlic. You can use whole garlic cloves or you can use garlic powder. Either one will work just fine. You'll need a jar lifter, one of these little contraptions. And so common mistake that I see people make a lot on videos is they're picking it up upside down. They use the
And I made
handle.
that mistake one
Did
time.
you do that
I
too?
did.
A lot of people do that. So you want to use the rubbery side to lift your jar like this.
And it just grabs on
On
there.
wide mouth, you go further down.
Yeah, and you can go further down with the wide mouth, but it grips better if you use the rubbery end. But a lot of people do it upside down. You're not the only
I
one.
made that mistake.
And then you've also, you're gonna need your rings for your jars. And so rings you can reuse over and over because I take the rings off after my stuff is canned. And that way you don't really need, you know, if you're canning 2,000 jars of food, you don't need 2,000 rings. You just need enough for whatever fits in your canner at one time. So that's the basics. You're also gonna want something to blend your sauce. So we're gonna use an immersion blender today. This is really a tool that I highly recommend if you do a lot of canning. I use this thing all the time. You may have seen the peach butter recipe that I shared last week. I used this to blend it. We're gonna use it today for sauce and it works really well.
Now, if you don't have one of those, can you use a food processor?
You can use like a food processor, you can use a Ninja, a blender, whatever you got. And there are lots of methods for making tomato sauce. So I'm going to say that up front. The method we're going to do today is kind of what I have found works well. It's fast and pretty simple. And I call this my good enough sauce. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. I don't strain out every single seed, but we're going to get it done and jar up sauce and not lose our whole Saturday in the process, which is our goal. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to chop up our tomatoes. So let's do this. We'll move our pans down here. And let's see, you want to just hold this? Josh is going to help with our camera here. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. So it's easier to cut a tomato with a serrated knife, FYI. So the way I do this, we're going to get a chicken bucket here because we feed all the scraps to the birds. The way I do this is I kind of cut at the top just to take off the little top part there. And then I'm going to cut it in half right down the middle. And then if you've got any little green bit of core, you can go in and just scoop it out. So you don't want to lose any more tomato than you have to, but you just want to get that little hard part out. And then we're going to lay these out on our sheet pans and we're going to do flesh side up. And Allie just got home. And we're going to lay these out and we're just going to fill our pan. So you want to chop and I'll chop. Maybe we'll knock it out twice as fast. I'll work on this pan. So
Here's the tomatoes and I'll
yes,
chop.
ma'am. So tell me in the comments, guys, have you ever made tomato sauce? And what method did you follow? So while we're chopping, I'm going to tell you kind of the old-fashioned way of making tomato sauce. And the old-fashioned way of doing this is you take your tomato and you cut an X like this on the bottom. Okay, just like so. And then you dip this in boiling water and you leave it in the pot of boiling water just long enough for the skin to start to peel away. And then you remove it and put it in a bowl of ice water. And that makes it really quick to peel your tomatoes before you begin. With good enough sauce, the way we're doing it today, we're keeping the skins. We're not even going to peel them. And what we're going to show you is once you roast these tomatoes, the peels come off real simple. And it's just quicker than having to go through and boil every individual tomato. That takes forever. That's how I originally made some sauce. Let's see, I saw a comment. Let's see if we had a question here. Never made my own sauce. I've done the X on the bottom. Okay, yeah, the X on the bottom is how like most people originally learned to do this, sort of the traditional way. That you can do.
That's the way I've always done it.
Yeah, that's sort of the way our
That's right.
grandmas all
Old school.
learned. Yeah, but this way that we're doing today is just going to be less mess, less stress, easy cleanup. And then as far as making sauce, you can use any kind of tomatoes you want, but I have found that if you will use a paste tomato, like the Amish paste is what I grow for sauce, you'll get a better sauce result that way. Just because the Amish paste is a very meaty tomato, it's not going to have as much juice in it. Thank you, honey. Josh grabbed one so I can show it to you. So this is an Amish paste. It's sort of like aroma in the same family, but they're very meaty and they just make the best sauce. So if you're planning your garden for next year, definitely add that one to your list of seeds to get. And we get our Amish paste seeds at Baker Creek, I believe. So you can go to rareseeds.org or rareseeds.com, and that's Baker Creek's website. I'm not gonna cut my finger off. Good.
We're professionals.
We're professionals. That's right. We got this. So we're gonna knock out all of these tomatoes real quick. So you've been canning for a while, right?
Mhm.
So how did you first originally learn to can?
My daddy,
Okay.
he was the canner in our house because my mom was afraid of the pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And so him and my mama, she lived with us for a long time.
Yeah.
And they would can together. And I remember them doing a lot of tomatoes and I remember the eggs,
Yeah.
you know.
That's how they did it.
Yeah. So that's where I learned.
Okay. And
And I
then
have my grandma's, my daddy's mother, I have her old pressure canner and I
aw,
still use it.
that's amazing. Those old canners, like they don't make them like they used to at all. The new ones don't last nearly as long, it seems like. And you guys can a lot too from your garden, right?
We've had a really great garden this year. It's been amazing what all it's produced.
Yeah.
And we've canned, we're getting ready to can potatoes. But we've been canning beans and squash and zucchini. And I like to can later on, maybe in August or September, I like to make soup.
Hmm. Yeah, I love anything like that. It's like a meal in a jar.
Mhm.
You can just put it up and have quick access. We did something new a few weeks ago. I did burrito in a jar, and it was ground beef and beans and what else? Had chopped tomatoes, like basically all the things you would put in a burrito, and you can it all together. You pressure can it for 90 minutes, with some meat in it. But that has been really great because the kids can pop open a jar and make a taco or a burrito for lunch. And like,
It's something that we've never done and we're gonna try it this year. Hopefully, we raise rabbits and we're gonna try to can rabbit.
yeah. So I want to try several kinds of meat and just kind of see the result I get. A friend of mine from church, Miss Diane, she told me her mama used to can sausage, like sausage patties. And she said it was the best sausage that she's ever eaten in her life. Like she still has these fond memories of that sausage. So I want to try that. Here, you can put some on this one too if you want to. Right in time, our oven's beeping. So we're going to do 400 degrees for these. And I usually do them for about 50 minutes. You want them to kind of roast off. And what's going to happen is as they roast, they're going to lose a lot of their extra liquid. And we'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. But it's going to make it easier to not have such a watery sauce. So one of the most common problems that people have when they make homemade tomato sauce is it's very liquidy. And it's sort of like tomato juice. And that's because if you're just putting all your tomatoes in a pot and you're cooking them and turning it into sauce, you're getting all that water and you have to let it cook down for a really long time and thicken up. So let me show you an example. Here's a jar of sauce that we had. And this one is actually pretty good consistency. I think this is one we did last year. But if you see any separation, just give it a shake and it will kind of reconstitute. It is totally normal with tomato sauce for the water to kind of separate from the tomatoes. But this one, I mean, it's pretty good and thick. I don't know if you guys can see it. You do get a batch that turns out more watery than you'd like, you can boil it and just cook it down until it's thicker. So here's an example of what one looks like when it has separated. So you see the liquid down there at the bottom, kind of. So if we shake it, it's going to come right back together. And then when you go to use this, like for instance, if I was going to make a pizza with this, you want pizza sauce to be a little bit thick. So I would just put this in a saucepan and I would bring it to a boil and simmer it until it's thicker. And another thing, a lot of people ask, what about seasonings? Like our ingredient list today was just salt, pepper, and garlic. What about like basil and oregano and all the good stuff we like to add to our sauce? What I have found is if you add that before you can it, the flavors of those herbs get really, really strong while you're canning it. And we found we didn't like it. It was almost too intense. So I can a very plain tomato sauce. And then when we open the jars and actually use it, I will season it however I want for that.
Yeah, you can always add to.
Right. You can add to, but you cannot take away.
Take out.
All right. So let's do our cutting board here. We're going to do the next step. So we'll each do a pan. We'll show you what we're doing as we go. So the first thing we're going to do is take some olive oil, and I don't measure. Y'all know this about me. I'm just going to kind of give it a light little douse, just a little bit, just to kind of help these roast up. And you don't need much, just a little sprinkle. Then you're going to take your balsamic vinegar. Again, this is optional. You don't have to use the balsamic vinegar, but I like it. And tomato sauce is really on the edge, pH. You can process it in a water bath or a steam canner, but the official recommendations from like the USDA says that you should add a little acid, a little bit of lemon juice or a little bit of vinegar. So I feel like I'm adding a little vinegar at this point in the process, and that's sufficient. So I don't add anything else to my jar. And I like the flavor of balsamic.
So you could use lemon juice if you wanted.
You could, if you do the lemon juice, don't do it at this point. Add it to your jars before you fill in the sauce, and you would do a tablespoon of lemon juice per quart jar.
Okay.
I have done it before, and you can't taste it. Like the lemon juice kind of blends in, and you can't taste it. All right, and then our next thing is we're just going to season these up. So we're going to do salt, pepper, and garlic. Very simple. You want to salt, fairly heavily. This can handle some salt. Okay. A good little sprinkle. And then we're going to do black pepper. Like that. And guys, if at any point you have a question, feel free to jump in and ask. Interrupt me. We don't mind. We want to hear from you and help you so that you'll be able to replicate this at home. Because homegrown tomato sauce is something everybody needs in their life. So we're using the powdered garlic, but if you want to use garlic cloves, you can just peel them and lay them around on your tomatoes. And use as much or as little as you like and roast it with your tomatoes. You could also add some onion if you like that, but we don't. We keep it simple. All right, so these are going to go in our oven for 50 minutes. I think you're good. I think we're pointed in the right direction. We're going to set a timer for 50 minutes. And now we're going to bring over a pan that we've already cooked. So you can see, we decided instead of trying to do the full process and make you wait for 50 minutes, we worked ahead. So let me show you what we got. So we've got 2 pans here that we've already roasted. This is what they look like. They're beautiful and they smell good. I'm like, very caramelized. So now, if you want to remove the skins, which honestly, I usually don't, but if you want to, they're so simple to remove after they've roasted. You let them cool for about an hour, flip it over, and you can kind of just grab the peel and it slides right off in one piece. You can do the same thing.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes some of them.
Some of them don't.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave that one on.
Yeah, leave that one on. That's fine.
Try this one.
So most of them should slide right off.
This one's coming right off.
Yeah. So come off just like that, then you can get rid of the peels. So it's totally up to you if you want them peeled or not. When we blend this up though, if you've got a good high-powered blender, immersion blender, food processor, whatever you're using, it's going to puree it where you're not going to taste the skins. So I don't worry too much about it.
Where's our chicken?
Here it is. Yeah, we need our chicken.
Chicken back.
If you have chicken, I highly suggest you get a stainless steel bucket like that to keep in your kitchen. Probably the most used thing I've got in this kitchen.
Because they eat everything.
Everything. Yes. Chickens will eat anything you give them.
They love whatever you
Except
do.
citrus.
Yeah, you don't want to give them citrus. Or you also, since we're talking about tomatoes, you don't want to feed your chickens tomato plants. So like when you go prune your tomatoes, don't feed them the branches and leaves that you prune off because tomato plants are toxic to chickens. Can make them sick.
So are potato plants.
Potatoes, peppers, all that
Most
kind of stuff.
nightshades.
Yes. All right. Will you come help me with this part?
What are we doing?
We're gonna pour this. So what we want to do is drain our pans. There's a lot of liquid. So I've got a colander and a bowl, and I'm gonna let Josh do this because I'm bad about making messes.
Why don't you grab the camera to show just how much liquid?
Okay,
Taking these skins off on the window.
let me spin you guys around here. Maybe. Here we go. So here's a look at the tomatoes and how much liquid we've got in here.
Lots of liquid.
Lots and lots of liquid. You can see the skins
Skins
just
come
coming off.
right off.
Super simple to remove those
Yeah.
skins. And that's what it's going to look like. Now, Josh is going to come drain this for me. And we're keeping the juice. We're going to put it in a bowl, and you can save that juice and use it in soups or stews. You can put it on your chicken food. They love tomatoes. Really, whatever you want to do with it. Drink it.
Give me that now.
Yeah. You want like a spatula? I'll do it. So the main thing here is we're trying to get rid of as much liquid and water as we possibly can. And the colander is going to help us do that. And here in a minute, when I lift this up, you guys are going to be amazed at how much liquid these have lost. Here we go.
Now, after you put them into the colander,
Mm-hmm.
mashed out, you press that on them to, like you do zucchini.
You could, but I mean, we really don't usually,
Okay.
because you're going to see here how much they've lost already. So from that one pan, this is a pretty good sized bowl, and we've got all this
I
liquid.
believe that's about 2 cups.
Yeah, and that would be a great soup base. Like, it would be a delicious
And
broth.
it already has the oil, the seasoning. It's ready to go.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to spin you back around here. He's going to drain one more pan for us. Put you back up here on this tripod. Any questions so far, guys?
What do you want that?
I'm gonna get a big bowl. You're gonna need a pretty good bowl to mix this up in. Just grabbed a big stainless steel bowl. There we go. While he drains that one, we're gonna go ahead and mix up this one. So, let's see.
You're gonna want to do it on the other side.
All right. Would you hold this and kind of, Debbie's giving me our camera right here. We're gonna come over here, the outlet, where I'm blending this water. So I just had to buy a new immersion blender this past week. My old one finally quit. I had used it literally until it died. So I got this one on Amazon, and they're not expensive at all. I think this one was $20. So if you need a link for one of these, let me know. All you're gonna do is put it down in your tomatoes. Turn it on. So as you just want to go until all the big pieces are broken up. You can decide on the consistency you like. If you want to leave a little bit of chunks in it, sometimes I do it for like chili or for spaghetti sauce, things like that. This looks pretty good. I'm gonna hit it one more time. There we go.
Well, you know, in the store, you can buy chunky
Yeah.
sauce or plain, you know, just
Right.
smooth.
You can do it any way you want. Bring this over here. Put it on the tripod now.
Looks really good.
All right, it did turn out pretty good.
And it smells.
It does smell good. Okay, so let's talk about the seeds for a minute. Because if you look in here, there are some seeds. For me personally, I don't really care. They're tiny. I don't feel like it's not, they've shredded up so much that you're not gonna notice them hardly. But if they do bother you, you can get a fine mesh strainer and you can pour it through that to catch any seeds or big pieces if you want a very smooth sauce. Here's an example of a strainer like what we use. And I like this size because it fits perfectly on a pitcher. So I'll use like a tea pitcher and pour it into that, and then you can pour your pitcher in your jars. Today, I think we're gonna go with good enough. I think it looks pretty
I
good.
do
You
too.
think? All right.
And if you're gonna mix it in with food, you're never gonna.
I think sometimes like with projects like this, with anything cooking from scratch, people get really hung up on trying to do things perfectly and it has to look a certain way. And, you know, this is how my Meemaw did it. So this is how we have to do it. You know, do what you're going to actually do. Because the idea here is to reduce what you're having to buy at the grocery store. And so if you know, if you're not going to take the time to do the full process, it's better to have good enough sauce than no sauce.
Exactly.
All right, so we're gonna grab a ladle. Getting a good ladle is important when you can. And I'm gonna start filling jars. And then will you grab us a rag with some vinegar? And then if you want to wipe the jars off as I hand them to you. So anytime you're panning, you want to start with clean jars. You do not have to sterilize them because they're going to sterilize while they can. But you do want to go ahead and wash them in hot soapy water or run them through like a cycle in your dishwasher. So we'll see how many we get out of this 2 pan. You can can this in pints, you can can this in quarts. It's really whatever you like and whatever you want to do. Your kitchen, your rules. But we found for us, like a family of 4, a quart is about the perfect amount.
And we're a family of 2, but we like leftovers.
Yeah, there you go.
So we do.
And so we wipe the rims with vinegar, like you see her doing over here, because you don't want any sticky residue on the top that could stop your lid from sealing properly. And that's the quickest way to make sure they're going to seal well. Now we're going to process these for 40 minutes in the canner, and you can use a water bath canner or you can use a steam canner. And here in a minute, I'm going to show you the steam canner. You want to make sure you leave about 1 inch of empty space at the top of your jar so they don't overflow. It can cause problems sealing as well. Always leave a tiny bit of empty space at the top. Most canning recipes will tell you how much space to leave. It's called head space. And so your recipe may say leave 1/2 inch of head space or 1 inch of head space. And that's what it's talking about. Just an empty room. This smells really good. Pretty color too. I think we're going to end up with 4 quarts out of this. But as you can see, this really doesn't take that long in terms of like the active work of making sauce. It's just the time of waiting on the oven, running the canner, all that kind of stuff. This one's not going to be quite short. So when this happens and I end up with a partial jar, you got a couple options. You can set it aside and add to it with your next batch, or you can put it in the refrigerator and just use it up in the next 3 or 4 days. And that's probably what we'll do. So we're just going to can those 3 while the rest cooks. If you want to go ahead and mark that off space, kind of made a mess, I think. All right, let me grab the steam canner and kind of explain how this thing works. So this is my favorite canner that I have. I have a water bath, a pressure canner, and a steam canner. The steam canner can be used for anything that you would normally water bath in. This is kind of a newcomer to the canning scene. It was just recently like tested and approved by the USDA within the last couple of years, and they kind of picked up in popularity. The one I have is a Fruit Saver, is the brand, and it has this big dome lid, and then the bottom pan is, you know, about 3-4 inches tall, and then you have a rack that sits down inside to keep your jars off the direct heat. So the way this works is there's a dial on top of your dome, and if I show it to you, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see it, but it comes with a manual that explains to you how to figure out what canning zone you are in. So for me, I'm in zone 1, which is the very top area. And you're gonna heat it up until the needle moves into the green for your zone, whichever zone you're in. And then you start your timer once it gets in your zone. And so for tomato sauce, we'll want to do 40 minutes. If you're doing pints, you can cut that to 35 minutes. But for quarts, we're going to do 40 minutes. And we need to start by putting 2 quarts of water in the bottom of our steam canner. So if you want to grab our water, we're going to put it over here on the burner. And she's filling that up. Let me check and see if we've had any questions pop in. Let's see. My sister is here with me in Boone, and she just looked at the screen and said, I need to learn all of this. She's going to come to Extra Grace. Oh, that's wonderful. Yay. Tell her to join, Jessica. We would love to have her. It's so fun to learn all of this, and it's a lot more fun when you're doing it together with friends. And you know, we've got a good group. I think we've got about 105, 110 people in our group now. And so, you know, there's lots of people learning together, and if you have questions, there's always somebody around that can answer them on Facebook. And make sure you've joined the private Facebook community too. For those of you that are watching this after the fact, I'll be sending this video out so you can watch the replay. There's a private Facebook community, and that has turned out to be one of the most fun parts of Extra Grace because we all share garden pictures and recipes, and it's been cool. All right, so now we need to lid up our jars. So we ended up with all wide mouth jars here, which is good. I'm going to use my 4 jars lids. And now, okay, have you ever used the 4 jars?
I have not.
Okay, so I want to see what your thoughts are here. We love them. So the company that makes these, they're based out of Texas, and it's a Christian family. They're believers, and they are so kind. And so I feel that one, and then I'm going to hand you a Golden Harvest one so you can compare. Like, I feel like the 4 jars lids are thicker and like a little heavier.
They are.
You feel the difference?
They are.
Yeah.
They're thicker.
And so I feel like I have a really good success rate with the 4 jars lids too. They seal really consistently. So again, coupon code for those lids is GraceWalk10, and that gets you 10% off. And then I just keep a basket with all of my rings in it, and I can fish out what I need. So we need your wide mouth, 3 of them. And when you're putting them on, she's doing it perfectly. You want to do what's called finger wrench it so hard that your lids will buckle. You want it just tight enough to hold the lid in place. Okay. All right. So let's set these in our canner. And will you grab that and maybe bring it with us? Josh is going to help us out and be our cameraman. I'll flip you around.
Turn around.
Yeah, you're good now. So we're going to put these in the canner. And the key with canning, no matter what kind of canning you're doing, whether you're water bath, steam can, pressure canning, you want to heat your jars up slowly and keep the temperature as consistent as you can. Because if you've ever canned and like the liquid has come out and made a mess all over the place, most of the time the reason for that's called siphoning. And that's usually from uneven temperature. If you heat it up too quickly or you cooled it down too quickly, that's what causes it. So I tend to kind of set my burner on about an 8, like a medium high, not completely high, and kind of let it warm up slowly. If you do the old-timey method for tomato sauce, where you have cooked your sauce in a big pot and it's boiling and it's hot, you want to use hot jars because your glass will crack if you pour hot sauce in cold jars. So we had cold sauce because my tomatoes have cooled, and we have cold jars. So we're just going to slowly heat up the pan. And then we're going to add our domed lid, and it just sits right on top. You don't have to seal it or anything special like you do with a pressure canner. And Josh, come right up here over top of it. See if you can show them this. So you see we're in the yellow right now. And as it heats up, that needle is going to move and come around. And I will start my timer when we get over into the green over here. So that's how you know. And once we're in the green, we'll set the timer for 40 minutes. Now, at the end of the 40 minutes, here's what you're going to do. Because we're not going to keep you here for 40 minutes and make you sit and wait on this to finish. It takes about 20 minutes for it to come up high enough in heat, and then another 40 minutes for it to can. So we're about an hour out from these being done. And what we'll do when the time is up is we turn the burner off and walk away. I don't open it. I don't touch it. I don't do anything to it. I walk away and I leave it and let it sit for at least an hour to just kind of slowly cool down. Okay. And by doing it that way, we're going to prevent siphoning, which tends to happen at the end of the process. And then after an hour, we're going to go ahead and open our dome and use our little jar lifters to remove our jars. We'll set them on a towel. And then I usually let mine sit overnight. Okay. And
I don't take the lids off until
yeah,
it's completely cool.
yep, same. So the rings, everything, just leave it alone. Don't touch it, because your jars are not sealing while they're in the canner. They're going to seal when they come out of the canner. So the temperature change when it goes from hot to cold, it creates like this vacuum effect, and it's gonna pull down and it will seal the lid onto your jar. And once it has sealed, then you can remove your ring. Okay. So let's do this. Let's talk about how to know if your jar is sealed. Let's go to the canning shelf. We've got lots of stuff going over here. Busy canning season. So how do you know if your jars have actually sealed? There's a couple things to check. Number one, you check on the top. Is there any movement when you press on the top of the lid? An unsealed jar will click and pop and move. A sealed jar is going to be stuck down completely tight where there's no movement. The other thing you can do is called a pickup test, and you can literally pick it up by the rim of your lid. And if it's on there well, it won't come off. If it's not, you're going to have a mess. So proceed with caution. But that's how you can know. Things to be aware of with anything you're canning, not just tomato sauce. When you go to open a jar, if your lid is loose and pops off easily, and it's not a good seal, do not eat the food inside. When in doubt, throw it out. You don't want to take a risk on getting your family sick. The other thing is, if you ever see any mold or any cloudiness or bubbling, that's a sign of fermentation that's happened. That also is a sign that you don't have a good seal. So as long as your food looks okay, smells okay, and your seal is intact, you're good to go. And just to kind of take some of the fear out, you will know if your seal has broken. The smell is going to tell you. Like, it's not one of those things where you're going to immediately, where you're having to guess and you're constantly afraid you're making your family sick. If a lid isn't sealed, the food's going to rot and you're going to know by the smell. So there's no fear in that. Canned goods should be stored ideally in a cool, dark place. We don't have a basement or a root cellar, so we make do with bookshelves. And you can stack your jars no more than 2 high. That's what the USDA has recommended. If you go to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, if you Google that, there's a website, and then you can find canning times for any food imaginable. And they have tested recipes that you can safely follow. And what it says on there is stack no more than 2 high, and you want to stack the same kinds of jars. So for instance, you want to stack regular mouth on top of regular mouth. If you have wide mouth, you want to stack wide mouth on top of wide mouth, just to keep the pressure areas the same. It's also a really good idea to label your jars. So this is some beef broth, and you can see I wrote beef, and I put 23 for the year, 2023. And that's just a good way to quickly know, when did I make this? What's inside of it? Most stuff you can tell. I mean, like things like pickles, it's pretty obvious what it is. But you get into things like tomato sauce versus, a tomato juice or diced tomatoes. It's good to have the clarification written on your jar. And the same with jams and jellies. They all kind of look alike. Blackberry and grape, you'd never know the difference if you don't label them. So it's a good idea to label them. And then, your jars will keep for 18 to 24 months is what they say, but honestly, much longer. What's the longest you've kept canned food?
I'm still using food right now from 2019.
Okay, 2019. So,
and it's good, it's fine.
So 4 years. So that just goes to show you this stuff will last a long time. And from a preparedness standpoint, if you plant 10 tomato plants and you make sauce or diced tomatoes and you can from half the tomatoes you harvest, and you use the rest to eat fresh, make tomato sandwiches, whatever, that's food that you can put away that you're not going to have to buy this winter. When you want to make spaghetti, you don't need to put that on the grocery list. You've already got your tomato sauce. And then you can go even a step further and you can start learning to grow and dry your own herbs. Our workshop a few weeks ago, we talked about how to dry and store herbs. You can go back and reference that. But pretty soon you'll learn, you can replace a lot of things from the grocery store and not have to buy them anymore.
Herbs and spices are expensive.
They are. And I came across an article. I need to send it to you. I saw it yesterday. There was this random study done, and they went and they bought, I can't remember how many, it was over 100 different bottles of spices from the grocery store. And they got a sampling of a bunch of brands and they tested them for heavy metals, molds, and something else. And a third of all the spices had toxic levels of heavy metals. Like not just a little bit, but like enough that they said this would make people sick. And so that motivated me even more to like get serious about the herbs and the spices and not have to buy them at the store anymore. That's scary, you know?
You know, we talked earlier about I'm going to start a herb garden.
Yeah.
I've got a perfect place to do it and replace a lot of those spices and herbs that I have in the pantry right now.
Yeah, it's fun. And I mean, and if you look over here, you can see how we store the herbs kind of similar. We've got some food creeping up on the shelf now too, but these are some of the things that I've dried and stored so far this year. We've got onion flakes, lavender, lemon balm. This is hot chili skins that I dried, pine needles, orange skins, bay leaves, rose petals, calendula, dandelion. And then we've also got like little tincture bottles. Like this is a lemon balm tincture.
What do you have down here?
So this is bee balm. And this is one you can use for tea, or you can even put the herbs in your bath. It's a very calming. Pineapple sage smells just like pineapple, but the sage is antibacterial. So it makes like a sweet tea that's also got medicinal benefits. This one is just basil, and we got to smell it because it's basil.
And I've actually used some of your basil that you gave
That's
me.
right. I did give you some.
It smells really good.
It does. I love basil. We grow like 3 or 4 different kinds of basil, and then I like to like make my own blends. They're so good.
Basil's really good in spaghetti sauce.
Yes, anything with tomatoes. This is our strawberry vinegar, one of our jars, and it has developed a mother. If you look in here, so we made this together, guys, if you watched that video, and now that it has a mother, in theory, I could use this mother to make more vinegars. And the next thing I'm going to figure out is how to make kombucha, which is like a carbonated fizzy drink that is made from natural fermentation.
Wow.
So we're going to learn. We're learning all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can do so much with this. And the jars with herbs are not canned. They're just jars with a lid on the top. You don't have to can your herbs. You just want them completely dry before they go in your jar. Let's go check the canner. It sounds like it's whistling. Let's see where we're at. Tomatoes in the oven are smoking too. Okay, we're getting there. We are not quite in the green, but we're close. So, anything else you can think of that you would share about canning, or any advice?
You were talking about labeling your jars. I have found. I went and bought a pack of Avery labels, the little round labels.
Yeah.
You can, and I've got from Debbie's Kitchen, and I'll put a picture, like if it's cucumbers or tomatoes or whatever, and I'll put what it is and the date, and then I can just put those right on top. That's how I label it. I've had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you could give them as gifts and stuff too. I like that idea. Yeah, so look into that. And now they make these little thermal label printers. I've been looking at them, and you don't have to refill the ink on them.
Really?
So that's something
You can get really creative with the way you want the jars,
Yeah.
especially if you want to give them as gifts.
Yeah, for sure. And people love
Things like that.
Yeah, love anything homemade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody have any final questions about tomato sauce?
Haven't seen any.
You haven't seen anything new come through? Okay, that's all right. So for those who watch the recording of this, I'll be emailing that out later today. If you have questions about something we didn't cover in this class, or something you need to know, you'll be able to just hit reply to this email that the video came from, and I'll be happy to help you with your question. But this is the process. It's pretty fun and simple, and it's fun to do as a family and kind of hang out together. We've done, let's see, we did pear preserves together. Now we've done tomato sauce, and we're all the time working in the gardens and they help us and we help them, and it's better when you do it with
You know,
community.
we kind of did it together this year where we planted corn and had bukus of corn and
Yeah.
shared with them, and you guys planted potatoes.
Yeah.
And are sharing with us, so if you've got space to do that, it's a really good idea
Yeah,
to do that and share. You don't have to all do the same thing.
yeah, it cuts the work down for everybody, but then you can share your harvest. So, if you get 5 or 6 families together and somebody's really good at corn and somebody's really good at okra and somebody's really good at potatoes, then you can kind of divide and conquer and, raise food for all your
I will
family.
say you mentioned okra, and if you've never tried white okra, that's what we grow.
Yeah,
And it's not actually white, but it's a very pale green, and it's so much better
it is
than
good.
dark green okra. It's
Mhm.
really good. You should try it.
Yeah, they gave us some and it was really good. What's your favorite way to use the okra? Fried okra or
We love fried okra.
yeah,
Yeah, that's our favorite way to fix it.
hard to beat it. I like pickled okra.
See, I can't eat pickled okra. That's just not my thing.
I think I'm the only one in the
It's gotta
family
be
that likes
it's
it.
gotta be fried.
So you can pickle it, fry it. A lot of people add it to stews because it's like a natural thickener, but I find it's a little
It's
slimy.
slimy. I can't
Yeah.
get past the slime.
Jessica says her okra is just starting to come in.
Nice.
Right.
That's awesome. Ours has been slow this year.
We have had an abundance of okra. We've given it away. We've sold some.
All right. So we are almost in the green. We're close. So guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up, and what we'll do is when it finishes processing, we're gonna turn it off, like I said, let it cool down, and then we'll move it out of the canner. And when they come out of the canner, I'm gonna take a picture and I'll post it to our private Facebook group so you can see the final result and how it turned out. And we'll answer any questions you have there as well. But I hope this has been helpful and has kind of taken some of the mystery out of tomato sauce for you.
Thanks for inviting me to share it. Because this is all new to me. I learned how to do it. Now I can do it in my kitchen.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me. And yeah, go make some tomato sauce with your friends, guys. It's fun activity, and I promise your family will like it better than Prego or Ragu.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.